everybody, and welcome into the Mountaineers Now postgame show. I'm Schuyler. Callihan. Joining with me is Christopher Hall. West Virginia falling to Baylor 79-67. And a look at the stats for tonight's game. West Virginia shot 24-53 from the field, 7 of 21 from three. And for Baylor, they could not miss. They were 26 of 51 and a scorching 14 of 27 from three-point land. That was pretty much the difference in this game. LJ Cryer alone hit 8 of 11 from deep. Adam Flagler, 13 points on 5 of 9 shooting for Baylor also. And Emmett Matthews leading West Virginia in scoring with 17 points. So, Chris, Baylor sweeps West Virginia, and it feels like this team's kind of losing a little bit of its identity, and I don't even know that they have one. And that's kind of my first question for you, because I don't know if you've noticed anything or not, but what is this team's identity, and what do they have to do to be successful? Because I can't figure it out.
It's kind of hard to get an identity when you bring in 7 guys, and span of 3 days you play 2 top 10 teams. Just going to make you look really silly. If you're just a half a second behind. This team's still trying to figure out how to play with one another. And we've talked about it so many times. Like, when they were losing and 0-5, like, hey, they don't have the ball to bounce back, or whoever to bounce back. When you're still trying to build chemistry and find your way, and you're doing it in a conference like this, you're going to have nights. It's pretty common if you look around the league. Texas just went into Texas Tech, a team that's been struggling most of the year. Now they look like they're turning things around. They just knocked off Texas. So it's just the league. If you don't, Cryer, Flagler, Keontae George is only a freshman. He put up 32 in Morgantown. Most of the emphasis was on the other two. They didn't allow Keontae to go off. They didn't allow Bridges to get the rebounds that he did last time Morgantown. But they got a guy like Cryer who can just hit 8 3-pointers on a night. So that's just the league. That's the difference in talent. That's something that Bob Huggins has got to work on in the future. And it goes to Ren Baker. Something else we've talked about with football and everything else. You have to retain them. You got to have guys in here 2, 3, 4 years in the program if you want to have success on the road in the Big 12. That's been the biggest problem the last 2 years. You have transfer. You have guys looking for opportunities, but maybe not the opportunity so much better. That's better for the program. So keeping guys like Seth, Mo, James, who knows that Jamel King, he's still a young guy, but keeping these guys is important for the future. And you're seeing like the fruits pay off for Baylor for having guys like that. Kansas, I look at the top teams in the league. So it just kind of is what it is. We kind of knew this all year. This was going to be the team. And when you play 2 top 10 opponents in 3 days, you're going to look silly like that. It is. It just is what it is. That's the reality West Virginia's facing. And you were hoping to catch a break with Texas Tech, but you beat them there. But like I said, it looks like they turned it around. So you're going to have probably another battle here.
Oh, yeah. I don't expect any of these games to be a guaranteed win. And I think anybody that thinks that is probably out of their mind. The league is just so unpredictable on any given night. But I think for West Virginia, and this goes for a lot of the teams in the Big 12, like if you don't have the ability to bring in the types of players that Baylor and Kansas bring in, and even Texas, I think you can throw them into that boat too. They can recruit just as good as any of them. If you can't get those types of players, you have to go to the route of what Fran Fraschilla used to say a couple of years ago when JC and Dax were here, where it's you got to get old and stay old, and that's pretty much the best way you can compete with these teams. Is that even possible now with the transfer portal?
Absolutely. None of those kids were highly recruited kids. They had some big programs, but they're not one and dones. They're program type players. JC he wasn't as good offensively his freshman year as he did turn out to be his senior year. And that's what you need. You need commitment from guys, not just for the program, but for themselves, because you're not going to, no matter what you do or try to transfer to better your situation, it doesn't matter unless you're working on your craft. So we've heard coaches, some first WVU Huggins or Neil Brown talk about you have to find the right fit. I think there's a lot of guys on this team that are the right fit that they got in transfer portal. It's not that they're not bad players. It's just a mixed match of guys. They don't have a true point guard to really run the offense. So a lot of it's just dependent on guys knowing the game, back cuts or just cutting to the basket when guys are in trouble. And the other guy that has the ball has to recognize it. If you only play how many games now, over a couple dozen games, that's not a lot in basketball.
Yeah.
You're talking the guys have 2-3 seasons together. You're talking a little over half a season with you with that. So, that's just a lot of times why they look slow, why other teams look so fast. They know where to go, where to be. It just makes a big difference. It makes a huge difference when you have. It's not so much like talk about veteran guys that've been playing college basketball for 5 years. There's program players, guys that's been within that program. That's just the biggest difference that West Virginia is lacking. And you may be too, again, if you get straight up to NIL, keep the players. You always hate to say next year, but that's kind of what this team realistically was not going to win anything major. You're trying to look towards the future, that gap, and you just got to retain the guys you have. You've got to be able to bring in guys that can stay 2, 3, possibly 4 years. Albeit freshmen, JC guys, and young transfers that just may have got overlooked.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I look at this team, like the struggles on the defensive end are glaring at times, like very, very glaring. We saw it on Saturday, at times today, obviously with the 3 ball. I don't know that this team has one of those types of leaders. And again, I'm not saying they have to be a Javon Carter or Dexter Miles Jr., but they don't have that type of guy that's going to be like, okay, let's put an end to this. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and they just don't have that killer instinct. And I think that's a big, big problem that this team doesn't have. They lack toughness, they lack physicality, and they've got to go get some guys that bring that to the table. Whether that means they don't have much of a 3-point shooting, in their arsenal next year or not, I don't know, but they've got to find ways to get better defensively, because if not, they're not going to have a chance against these types of teams. But I do want to ask, since we are coming up here on a very critical 2-game stretch here at the WVU Coliseum, with how things have shaken out to this point and the schedule that's remaining after these 2 games, does West Virginia have to go 2-0 right here to get to the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, you have to win out. I think you have to win out home. If you don't, say you drop the road games and lose to Kansas State, and you're going to have to probably win 2, maybe 3 in the Big 12 tournament. That's going to be laughing if they won't even get the bye, probably, if that happens. So, yeah, you'll get a chance to play at the bottom teams of the league, but it's all teams that beat you as well. So, yeah, I think if you just take care of business at home, you're fine. You would like to kind of cap it off with a Big 12 tournament win, but first you got to knock off Texas Tech. You just knock off Texas, but they have to travel to Morgantown. Maybe they'll feel too good about themselves, and maybe we can just have a nice end of 5 minutes of the game where, kind of like the Oklahoma game where you just felt good. You don't have to worry about too much. I got to watch it win.
Yeah, I think, hey, Texas went into that game tonight fat and sassy. Maybe Texas Tech does the same thing, so we'll have to see. But I think if they were to drop to Texas Tech, I think they've got to win probably the Kansas game on the road, which is, again, probably very, 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 very unlikely. If they lose to Oklahoma State, I don't think it's as bad because they are kind of a bubble-ish team right now, but you're still putting a lot of pressure on yourself, and you're going to have to win still probably one of those games in the tournament, maybe 2. But if you take care of business, then you should be able to punch that ticket to the big dance. So West Virginia, again, falling 79-67 at number 9 Baylor. They'll be home this Saturday against Texas Tech. Tip-off is set for noon. We'll be here for the Mountaineers Now post-game show once again. So thank you guys for watching. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube at Mountaineers Now, and follow us on Twitter at Mountaineers Now as well. We'll see you guys Saturday. Take care.